very much. I don't know where you got that book a day. It's actually a vitamin pill every day. I wish it were a book every day, but Press, thank you very much for your extremely kind and erroneous introduction. It is a pleasure to be back in New Orleans, and Bob, once again, to partner with the Business Council here, and I want to thank you and your colleagues. I want to thank the CED staff for this great partnership. It's really good to be here to talk about these issues, and I want to thank all of you in the audience for coming. I also want to thank Boise Bollinger for reminding me that some years ago there was a restaurant in New Orleans called Kolb's, spelled the same way, pronounced the same way. I think I may have gone there in my first visit to New Orleans 25 years ago. I think it was an experiment in German Cajun food, if I recall. But at any rate, this city is one of my father's two favorite cities, the other being San Francisco, so I have a lot of personal and family associations with New Orleans. So thank you all for letting me come back. Just a couple of additional things about the Committee for Economic Development. This is our 70th anniversary. We were founded in 1942. I was a little smaller at the time, but it's been a good experience. I've been there 15 years as president, as Press said, but we're celebrating our 70th anniversary. And one of the signature projects that we are very proud of is the work that we did in the 1940s that led to the creation of the Marshall Plan to rebuild Western Europe. And so we've had a very rich 70-year history of business leaders like Press Kabikoff and Paul Hoffman, our founder, really focusing on domestic as well as international issues that promote economic growth and development and the sharing of those benefits both at home and abroad. We're nonpartisan. We are actually an oasis in Washington. We're one of the few places in Washington where Republicans and Democrats, independents come together and focus on policy issues without trying to degrade each other. And we've been that way throughout our history. We have close to 200 board members, most of whom are senior business leaders and executives, along with a couple dozen college and university presidents. And we come together as, the reason we have 200 people is that the people on the board get together in working groups, in subcommittees, and we work through issues like campaign finance reform, healthcare reform, deficit and debt reduction, globalization and trade, and things like corporate governance. And throughout most of that 70-year history, one of the topics which has really attracted the attention of the trustees is education. And you can understand why. Business leaders appreciate the investments that are made or not made, as the case may be, in human capital. If you invest in human capital the right way, you have a much greater likelihood of promoting economic growth and development in the country. And I think it's correct to say that for the first time in CED's history, we are now working on all three phases of the economic continuum: early education, K-12, and the topic today, post-secondary education. Let me just, by way of introduction to post-secondary education, it's interesting if you think back almost 30 years to 1983. There was a famous report that was published. How many of you have heard of A Nation at Risk? Okay, it really launched almost a 30-year effort around things like accountability standards, testing, measurement, improvement. And I think, on balance, it's been a more positive than a negative experience. You've seen the issues embraced by the H.W. Bush administration and the Clinton administration around national education goals. You've seen it with George W. Bush and the No Child Left Behind Act, and you've seen it now with the Obama administration with the Race to the Top challenge. But it's very interesting. During most of that 30-year period, when there's been this accountability focus on K-12, there's been relatively little policy focus on post-secondary education, with the exception of issues around access and financing. But it's only been recently that people have started to ask questions like, access to what? What is it that we expect our young people to know and to be able to do as a result of their experience in post-secondary education? I specifically use post-secondary because I'm not just talking about institutions of higher education, but I'm talking about four-year schools, two-year community colleges, the private sector, the proprietary school sector, hence the term post-secondary education. And I want to leave you with one theme for today. My premise of the remarks is very simple, that we stand on the precipice of major transformation in America's post-secondary sector, and it's driven by three factors: cost, competition, and technology. So let me try to elaborate on each of these themes. Let's take cost first. Press alluded to some of the facts here. From 1990 to 2009, college tuition and fees increased almost 275%, far more than healthcare and substantially more than the Consumer Price Index. George Washington University in Washington, D.C. is just a few blocks from CED's office. Its former president, Steve Trachtenberg, is a trustee. I can mention this now, Steve's not in the room. But the university, George Washington, distinguished itself by becoming the first university in the country to charge $50,000 in total costs for attending GW. A friend of mine actually refers to GW as a real estate company masquerading as a university. It owns a lot of the real estate in and around that part of Washington near the White House. Then this year, you get the figure that Sarah Lawrence College is charging over $59,000 a year. Now, for most people, that's a lot of money. And I think a lot of people who are purchasing a luxury automobile at that price, especially if you have to buy a car like that every year for 4 years in a row, you're going to start asking questions about how much car you're getting for that sticker price. Now, someone might say, okay, that the sticker price isn't what people actually pay, and I understand that there are grants and loans and endowments and other sources of funding that might bring that cost down. But the fact is, it's inescapable, inflation in post-secondary education is simply unsustainable. I think it is also driving many young people to rethink the value of post-secondary education in terms of the investments that they make in their future career. And it's resulted, as we've seen even in today's New York Times, a debt load, a staggering debt load that approximates $1 trillion in student loan debt, greater than credit card debt for the first time. And it's saddling our young people with financial obligations that will often circumscribe their future career choices. For many indebted students, I think it's kind of like having a mortgage, but not having the house. The expectation is that through their education, they have skills, they have something inside their head that will enable them to become gainfully employed. But I think at the same time that we are seeing these unsustainable price increases, the silver lining is that these price increases are getting people to ask questions like the questions that have been asked about our K-12 system since A Nation at Risk. When we're outspending the rest of the world on our post-secondary system, why aren't the results any better? Why do so many young people who start a college degree drop out? Why are our national completion and attainment rates not any better, given what we're spending? Why are so many resources being wasted in the sector? And does this experience lower the motivation for young people at a time when they need to be getting as much education as they possibly can? Press alluded to the fact that these questions are very similar to what we've seen in healthcare. Why is it that a country such as France, which spends half as much on healthcare as we do, experiences far better outcomes when it comes to longevity, infant mortality, and obesity prevention? So these are the types of accountability questions that I think are not going to go away. And they're also at the heart of what we're seeing in terms of the second point, competition. Competition that wasn't there 20 or 30 years ago. It's competition for supply, it's competition for demand, it's in this country, and it's also international. Just read one book Ben Waldavsky, who's a scholar at the Kaufman Foundation in Kansas City, a year and a half ago wrote a book called The Great Brain Race. And there you will see exactly what I'm talking about. There are countries such as China, India, United Arab Emirates, which are trying to create their own version of Harvard, or you pick the school. I mean, literally plunking down billions. They are competing for our students. They are competing for US faculty. And you are going to see this competition multiply, particularly, and I'm going to get to the online point in a second, but you're going to see competition for courses that are being offered on the web all around the world at substantially reduced prices. You're also seeing in Europe, there's been a 10-plus year project called the Bologna Project, which is an effort to harmonize standards and credentials across countries and across institutions. Okay, that's a good thing. We can't figure out in this country how to articulate the transfer of credits between some proprietary schools, some community colleges, 2-year schools, and 4-year schools. It's easy to do, but we haven't put the effort into it. And the result is wasted resources and wasted time for our students, and also frustration. Now, let me get to the third point that I want to spend more time on than I usually would, because there have been actually some recent developments this week, as noted in yesterday's New York Times. The third point is technology. Now, I do not see technology as a magic bullet. I'm not going to stand here and say that everything's going to be online, but there can be no doubt in my mind, and I hope in yours, that the information technology revolution of the last several years is going to have a major impact on the cost and the manner of delivering post-secondary education. In 2010, CED did a report. It's on our website. It was done by our Digital Connections Council, which looks at the way in which openness, the open IT revolution, is driving change in post-secondary education. And today, we are seeing exactly how these efforts are playing out, whether it's through online courses at various proprietary schools, MIT's OpenCourseWare initiative, or the success of a school like Western Governors University, which I think is pretty much all online in certain disciplines, where the students can get both a baccalaureate and an advanced degrees at significantly reduced costs. Now, how many of you have heard of an MOOC? That's the acronym that appeared in yesterday's New York Times. The headline was MOOCs, plural, large courses open to all, topple campus walls. It's an article by Tamar Lewin, and she points out, she gave the examples of what's called a massive open online course. That's what MOOC stands for, massive open online course. And she pointed out a course given by 2 Stanford professors, Sebastian Thrun and David Evans, called Building a Search Engine. 90,000 students took that course online. Another Stanford professor gave an online course on artificial intelligence. 160,000 students took that course online in 90 countries and in 44 languages. At Stanford, there were 200 people who signed up for the course on class, and about 30 who finished it. Transformational change is underway. You have a course on machine learning. 104,000 registered, 13,000 completed it, and plans are to have similar courses in anatomy, cryptology, game theory, and natural language processing. Can this be monetized? Can this be turned into a profit activity? I think the answer is yes, as was pointed out in the article. Once you have records created of how these students are handling these courses and how well they're doing and getting a certificate, that information can be linked up with employers who are looking for that same skill set. Okay? And so here's where the last bit of the transformational change comes in. Someone says, okay, so I take a open source online course, but I don't get any credit for it. Just wait, because that's changing. The second article in yesterday's New York Times was called Beyond the College Degree, Online Educational Badges. Okay? So the notion that you're going to have to sit in a classroom for 2 or 4 years to get that degree, whatever you want to call it, bachelor's, AA, associates, that's going to change, folks. Because the world is demanding young people with skill sets, and most young people are not going to pay $59,000 a year to get there. And so I think the examples, I would commend to you yesterday's New York Times of the 2 articles by Tamara Lewin, and this concept of massive open online courses. Because the next phase is to figure out how to turn the experience of taking this course into a degree. It's called a badge now, but it's going to be called something different, I suspect, in the future. It's going to be monetized. And just like we've seen in the proprietary sector, the for-profit sector in this country has already demonstrated the ability to scale up in certain capacities. Western Governors University is but one example, growing very quickly. And so you've got faculty who do virtual office hours. You have online discussion forums. And I'm not saying, again, it's the magic bullet, but it is a magic transformational factor that is not going to go away. You've seen in the last couple of years studies by McKinsey and Company that look at the issue of promoting greater transparency, efficiency, productivity, and innovation in America's post-secondary sector. Those are not typically terms associated with post-secondary education. They come more from the business community. But to get to where we need to be in terms of the number of graduates with skills in this country, we're going to have to think very differently. And that's why I would also point you to the work of a professor at Harvard, Clayton Christensen. He's the guru of the concept of disruptive innovation. And he has a short study out that he did with the Insight organization called Disrupting College: How Disruptive Innovation Can Deliver Quality and Affordability to Post-Secondary Education. And you're seeing also the involvement of major foundations. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which supports CED's work, the Lumina Foundation. They are all looking at ways to change the existing business model of post-secondary education. And what we've tried to do at CED in our project, which will be announced in New York in late April, and we'll be glad to make sure that everyone here gets a copy of the report, we are looking at ways in which the post-secondary sector can benefit by changes in innovation, productivity, and efficiency. And I'm very pleased that we have 2 outstanding trustees who are leading this effort. One co-chair is Bruce McClowery, the president emeritus of the Brookings Institution, and the other co-chair is Jeff Jarrus, the global CEO of Manpower Group. Also on that subcommittee is Carl Camden, who's the global CEO of Kelly Services. I wanted both of those men from the private sector to be part of this effort because those companies, Manpower and Kelly Services, function as canaries in the coal mine. They see things that are happening inside the employment sector in this country and around the world. They see it faster than the regional feds do. And so we're very pleased to have leadership at CED from both Manpower and Kelly Services. And these CEOs will tell you that for America to be competitive at home and around the world, we need more people today with more education. A high school degree is no longer enough, and it will be, in many instances, insufficient to qualify for many of today's jobs that will compensate our workers at middle income levels and above. So achieving the 21st century version of the American dream is going to require a far more educated citizenry and workforce. And I will also add, whenever I talk about these issues, it's not just about the economy and the workforce. This is education for our democracy. A democracy requires citizens who are educated, who are capable of making choices on their own. So it's not just an issue, post-secondary education is not just an issue for corporate America. It's an issue for all of us as Americans who care about the health and the vibrancy of our country, as well as the talents of our workforce. Let me just close with a couple of thoughts. The Obama administration and foundations like Gates and Lumina have, in the last couple of years, they've announced some very important attainment goals that are designed to make America once again first in the world in terms of the percentage of our population that have access to solid post-secondary credentials. So as a nation, and press alluded to this, we have to increase dramatically both the completion level and the education attainment level of our people. But here's one lesson, and we saw this with the No Child Left Behind Act in many states. What we've seen is that from time to time in our K-12 sector, goals can be missed altogether or gained along the way. And some states said, well, we can reach these No Child Left Behind goals, and they simply dumbed down the test. And so in my view, we simply cannot allow that to happen in post-secondary education. Certainly we can get the numbers up to achieve a numerical goal of pushing people through the system. But at the same time, I think we have to make sure that we have a discussion in this country at the local level, at the state level, and the national level about what it is our post-secondary students should know and be able to do. And the answer to that question in 2012 has to be different than what it was 10 years ago and certainly 20 years ago. So let me conclude just by thanking you for coming today, for your interest in this topic, and I hope that, Bob, we will continue to be able to engage you all in a dialogue, because our future depends on our getting this right. Thank you very much.